what is AI infrastructure exactly? Like that is something that you are expert in.
Yeah.
And how do you define that?
That's a very good question. I don't know if I'm going to define it in the way that like maybe the industry wants to define it. And just like anything, I think DevOps has the same problem, right? If you know the definition of DevOps, people say, oh, I'm a DevOps engineer, but it's really a culture, right? And as it expands, it gets complicated. I think we do that a lot in tech. I find AI infrastructure to be still infrastructure, but the thing that actually is more aligned to the problems that are different with AI ML workloads. And there are a lot of things that happen that are infrastructure-like, right? Same thing as any other infrastructure. That's also not AI, but that you're dealing with specifically with AI, right? So Ray, for example, is built for AI because it's the way it's actually working under the hood. One, because it's Python native and a lot of things in machine learning are built in Python, it works better for that. But additionally, because of the way it functions with GPUs, right? Where you're kind of you're not letting it just waste as much money pretty much in the way it's filling the workload, because AI ML workloads are like, there's a lot of variation of issues that come up with AI ML that are not in traditional infra, especially like deterministic ways. Deterministic or not deterministic? Is it like, let me backtrack for a second because I think I'm going very granular, but
no, it's good.
AI infra in general, if I had to define it, and again, don't kill me here, but for me, how I look at it is like anything that really is also infrastructure specific to AI ML workloads versus like your traditional infra. However, there's overlap.
And so traditional, you mean like
cloud,
an AWS EC2 instance,
right?
Would be traditional compute infrastructure.
Well, it's why neoclouds, right, exist now, right? Because
like
you have
Lightning AI.
Yeah, anything, but because you don't need as much of the virtual, the virtualization, right? You need direct bare metal access, right? So I think there's a lot of things that are happening that are challenges in AI ML workload. That's why you have frameworks like VLLM that came out that are open source, right? For inference. Inference is the first place you'll hit it, right? Because that's probably the more common place you'll hit it. Inference is, whether you're doing it for a finance company and you're trying to do batching of inference, or you're doing this as like trying to serve a lot of users, you're dealing with inference every day, right? But that's the first place you'll probably see those challenges that are different than regular inference, right? Like than traditional inference.
So it's in inference that you're likely to see the first infrastructure
yes.
challenges.
From like a user standpoint.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I guess AI, infra engineers have always, I think there's also a lot of new roles all the time. Like you have the ML platform engineers, and then, when you're a DevOps engineer, you might be an SRE, or you might be an infrastructure engineer, you might be called a DevOps engineer doing all of the above, and you might be a CI/CD pipeline person. I mean, every company, again, and I'll say this because there's a lot of debate around it and I've seen it. In a corporation, you might have more silos of what each role does. In a startup, you might be doing all of the above. And I think we are going to see new terms. We're seeing this now all the time. There's new terms that didn't exist because what we're really trying to do is give it a term to explain the problem. But AI infra is pretty much any infrastructure that I think is really associated with building out the workloads we're using today, which do behave differently, right? They are much more compute heavy. In the past, we were probably more reliant on having data, input, output. But today, we're really dealing with a lot more compute-heavy workloads. And so that's a different challenge, right, than traditional. So that when I say that, I think the compute stack is also changing a little bit. And that's why Ray exists, right, to distribute that load. You didn't really, you needed Spark for other use cases, but for AI ML workloads, you needed to integrate with VLLM, and you needed to also distribute the workloads in different ways.
Yeah, so to do a bit of an analogy here, so Spark was kind of like analogous to the EC2 instance in terms of providing you with the infrastructure you needed for traditional compute loads that didn't involve GPUs.
Right.
But now that we do have GPUs as a key part of serving any AI capability or training an AI model, that it now counts as AI infrastructure. And so open source tools like Ray become useful relative to something like Spark. A neocloud like Lightning AI becomes useful relative to AWS, cloud compute perhaps. Although of course they're developing.
Yeah. I call it the specialist. I'm actually doing a video tomorrow. I'm going to do this in the airport where I'm doing an analogy between traditional cloud and neoclouds, because I think they each are kind of overlap. Traditional cloud are actually building a lot of stuff that neoclouds do.
100%.
However, neoclouds they're specialists, right? And they're pretty much really building out what you need for AI infra, right? And I think there is a good analogy there in a way, which I will work on. I'll put this video, but there is this part that you have this problem that's growing very fast and you need to solve it faster because we're moving very fast. So neoclouds are really solving that. And you have the Nebus and CoreWeave and Crusoe and all of them, right? That we're seeing more and more. We'll hear a lot of their names for sure. And I look at like, AWS, GCP, Microsoft is like, they do everything in the airport, right? And then you have like that specialty route that's probably,
You're filming this at the airport for the purpose of...
Yes, I'm psychotic for this video, yes.
Just for the video? You're not flying anywhere?
I am. Tomorrow I'm going for one. Yeah. I was like, I take advantage of the situation. I'm like, I should do something in the clouds.
Right.
Analogies help.
Oh, for sure. We did some research on a popcorn analogy that you had. I don't know if we'll have
batch
time.
Inference.
Yeah, I mean, wow, now that I've said it out loud, you might as well just tell us about it.
Because there is, popcorn. It's like, imagine you're eating I think I was trying to compare, I think the video was all about explaining batch inference, right? And so I think I was sitting there with a pen and I was like, so when you're talking about like regular, inference, right? You would be like just maybe putting prepping your CPUs, prepping data is usually on CPUs, right? So you're like prepping the data and you need to distribute that, but you put the butter, you put the salt in your like kernel. And then if you're only taking one kernel and you're popping it on the pan and then you're whatever, that's great for, getting something in a fast way, right? So that's latency optimized. But then if you need to batch a bunch of popcorn, that's not the best way, right? Let's say you're in finance and you have so much data that's going to take you years to do it that way. You might want to do a bunch of them. So you might go to a microwave and put the full bag of kernels in there. The problem becomes that microwave is always on and you're paying for it. So what happens? You pay a lot of money and you need the pre-processing to happen at the same time. So it was kind of an analogy of pretty much trying to show how you need kind of the pre-processing of the CPUs. You needed the prep of the kernels to be ready for the amount of microwave popcorn in the
yeah.
So you're not wasting money and not starving your GPUs.